Welcome in Tilco Advisors. We empower construction material manufacturers with cutting-edge digital solutions. And now, welcome to our podcast, where we share insights from the world of smart construction technologies.
Today, we're looking at something that is, and I'm not exaggerating, probably the biggest regulatory and logistical challenge hitting global industry in years.
It really is.
It's called the Digital Product Passport, or DPP. And if you manufacture, import, or sell physical goods, frankly, anywhere in the world, this is a massive mandatory EU shift that's going to transform supply chains.
And it's starting soon, as early as 2026 for some sectors.
So this isn't some far-off concept.
Not at all. And it's critical for you to understand this is not just some internal admin task you can delegate. This is a legal requirement. It's under the Ecodesign for Sustainable Products Regulation.
A mandate that crosses borders.
Exactly. It completely resets the expectations for traceability.
Okay, let's unpack that. What exactly is the DPP?
Simply put, it's a detailed digital record for, well, almost every physical product that lands on the EU market.
Like a digital twin, almost.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's a digital twin linked via a scannable data carrier, most likely a QR code. And this passport has to reveal some pretty fundamental truths about the product.
Like what? What are we talking about here?
We're talking about what it's made of, where the raw materials actually came from, its environmental impact across its entire life cycle.
The whole thing.
The whole thing. And, crucially, transparent, machine-readable instructions for what to do at its end of life. Can it be repaired? Reused? How do you recycle it properly?
So the EU's goal here is pretty explicit.
Oh, very. They want to accelerate the circular economy and just radically increase traceability. And the stakes here are simple. Market access.
So this applies to a company in, say, the US or China?
Absolutely. It doesn't matter where you're headquartered. If you want to place products on the EU market, you comply or you don't sell. It's that black and white for these priority sectors starting in 2026, 2027.
Okay, so our mission today is to get past the high-level press releases. We're going to dive into who this affects first, what the major technical and, business challenges are that are already popping up.
And we're going to use the digital battery passport as a great case study for that.
Exactly. And then finally, we're going to uncover this really surprising reality of what consumers actually want from all this new transparency. So let's start with the timeline and the scope, because for some industries, that countdown clock is ticking pretty loudly.
It is. Compliance starts as early as 2026. The regulation is designed to be sweeping, but they've identified, the priority industries, the ones getting hit first with the tightest deadlines.
So who's on that list? Which sectors are feeling the most immediate pressure?
Well, the first wave is pretty big. You've got textiles and footwear. Not at all. Then electronics and ICT, and a huge one, batteries. They have a hard deadline of 2027 under their own specific EU batteries regulation.
And it doesn't stop there, right?
No, it expands pretty quickly after that. You're looking at furniture and mattresses, construction materials, detergents, paints, chemicals, even tires and other energy-related items like heat pumps.
So virtually everything physical.
Pretty much.
To meet these rules, the kind of data you need, it goes way beyond what most companies are tracking now.
It really does. It's not enough to just say where the final assembly plant was. This regulation demands extreme traceability.
What does extreme mean in this context?
It means from the moment the raw materials are mined or processed, through every single hazardous substance used in production, all the way to really detailed recycling instructions for that specific product's makeup.
And that's where the sheer scale of the digital infrastructure challenge becomes obvious.
Completely. Think about it. So many global companies, even the big ones, are relying on these disconnected systems, outdated ERPs or just, siloed spreadsheets.
Right. The sustainability team has one spreadsheet, logistics has another, and they don't talk to each other.
And that's the core issue. It isn't just a lack of data. It's the lack of master data. You need a single, verified, consistent source of truth for every product.
Which is why systems like a Product Information Management System, a PIM, are suddenly shifting from being a nice-to-have marketing tool to, essential compliance infrastructure.
It's mandatory cleanup. But, there's an upside here. We're seeing it in the early pilots. There's a huge opportunity.
No.
Well, the early movers, they're realizing they can use the DPP as a competitive edge, not just a burden. It forces you to get your house in order to verify your sustainability claims. You build trust with regulators and consumers way before your competition has even started sorting through their data mess.
So it's a chance to future-proof your whole product management system.
It really is. But cleaning up your internal data is just step one. The next battle begins when that data has to enter the global supply network and be shared securely.
Let's focus on that. The Digital Battery Passport, or DBP, is the leading legal example. It's mandatory by 2027 for things like EV batteries. So what specific data points do they have to track?
The requirements are, they're heavy duty. They're designed to completely close the loop on resources. I'd say there are 4 really crucial data points in the EU batteries regulation.
Okay, what's the first one?
First is minimum recycled content targets. Manufacturers have to report how much recovered material they're using, and there are specific thresholds that start in 2030.
For what kind of materials?
For high-value ones like lithium and nickel, you have to hit 6% recovered material by 2030, and that number goes up quite a bit by 2036.
Wow. Just that alone forces massive investment in recycling and verification. Okay, what's number 2?
Second is the carbon footprint declaration. And this is mandatory for each battery model, and it has to be specific to the manufacturing plant where it was made.
And the third?
The third is maybe the most technically complex. It's data pulled directly from the battery management system, the BMS.
The brain of the battery.
Exactly. This includes critical real-time metrics, things like the battery's state of health, or SOH, and its expected lifetime.
And having that real-time data just completely changes the game. I mean, knowing the state of health is everything if you want to reuse that battery pack in a Second Life application.
Precisely. For Second Life uses like energy storage, it's essential. And for recyclers, knowing the exact chemistry and history from the passport means they can process it more safely and efficiently. It breaks down those information silos that made recycling so hard before.
Okay, and the fourth point you mentioned was due diligence. That sounds like it gets into risk and liability.
It does. There are very strict due diligence requirements on responsible sourcing. You have to report on raw materials like cobalt, lithium, and nickel, including the entire chain of custody.
So this is more than just a data checkbox.
Oh, much more. It's forcing legal accountability all the way down the supply chain. If one of your suppliers uses conflict minerals, the EU importer now has a verifiable legal liability tied directly to their product passport.
So the intent is clear, the data is mandatory. But what are the biggest practical obstacles companies are facing right now? I mean, what are the early pilots, like the EU's BATROP project, telling us?
The reports from the industry highlight 4 major hurdles, and they all circle back to the complexity of data across these huge global networks.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first is the classic, data silos and confidentiality. Even with secure tools like blockchain available, there's just a general reluctance among competitors to share supply chain data.
Because of competitive concerns, protecting their secret sauce.
Exactly. Things like manufacturing processes, pricing, supplier relationships, they don't want to give that away.
But if the law says you have to share specific data points, isn't that just illegal avoidance? How are companies trying to meet the mandate while protecting their IP?
They're focusing on what you could call data fidelity instead of data visibility.
Meaning what?
Meaning you share only the required metric, say the final carbon footprint number, but not the proprietary formula you use to calculate it. But that only works if you solve the second challenge.
Which is?
Interoperability.
The interoperability headache, of course.
Yes. You have thousands of global players, miners, processors, cell makers, assemblers, all using hundreds of different software systems. They all have to share data in a consistent, defined, machine-readable format.
If everyone uses their own format, the whole system just grinds to a halt.
Immediately, it breaks down. Think of it like the internet. The QR code is the address, but you need organizations like GS1 to create standards, like their digital link model, to make sure the data at that address is in a universal language that any system can read.
A universal digital language.
Okay,
so if you solve that, what's the third major issue? You said it was a legal nightmare.
Defining responsibility. This is the liability handoff problem.
Who is holding the bag, essentially?
Exactly. Who is responsible for updating the passport when a product moves past its first life? If an EV battery gets repurposed for home energy storage, the product has a new purpose. Who's responsible for the new passport details about its second life performance?
And who's responsible for erasing the data when it's finally recycled?
Right. Does the passport basically become a liability document, defining who takes the financial risk at every single stage?
Yeah.
That lack of clarity is a huge issue.
Okay, and finally, the fourth one, data reliability. especially for something so abstract like a carbon footprint.
This is probably the toughest technical challenge. It's not just about gathering data, it's about validating it.
Yeah.
You're pulling data from different energy grids, different calculation methods, different reporting rules across dozens of countries.
One supplier might be on renewables, another on coal power.
And they could be making the exact same part, but their carbon footprints will be wildly different. So you need a really robust, consistent validation framework just to make sure the final number is trustworthy.
So you're not just committing greenwashing on a global scale.
Precisely.
That hard compliance side of the stick is clearly forcing a huge data restructuring. But the real reward, the carrot, that depends entirely on whether the consumer actually cares about any of this.
And that's the crucial pivot, isn't it? If we look at the textile and fashion sectors, who are also early adopters, it gets really interesting. When brands gather all this amazing verified data, what do consumers actually look at?
You would assume it's the environmental impact, right? The verified carbon footprint, the water usage. Once that's visible, that's what people will choose. But the research shows a very surprising twist.
It really does.
Yeah.
A recent survey on clothing labels found that consumers are actually twice as likely to care about the durability of an item and its care instructions.
Wait, twice as likely?
Twice as likely as they are to care about its environmental footprint.
That's almost ironic. The EU creates this massive framework for global environmental transparency, and consumers are basically using it to see if their shirt is going to shrink in the wash.
It really highlights a shift that's driven by cost pressures. When budgets are tight, people lean towards buying fewer but better quality items. For longevity, that practical reassurance that their purchase is a good investment, that becomes the main concern right at the point of purchase.
So the DPP has to deliver that immediate practical value, not just the abstract ethical value.
It has to.
We have seen some great examples of brands already piloting this. I know the tech firm Fabicus is testing these durability gauges for retailers like Tesco.
Like a traffic light system, right, giving you that immediate quality signal.
Exactly. And others are using it for circular services. The outdoor brand Bergens of Norway uses the QR code to offer repair and rental services linked to that specific garment's history.
And you see premium brands using it to fight counterfeits. A footwear company like Loke or the furniture brand Line Rosette, they use the DPP to prove authenticity. It's the ultimate digital certificate of provenance.
So if the data is so rich, why aren't we seeing consumers scanning every single product they buy?
It's the paradox of choice. A key finding from a Finnish study on this was that the passport is not an everyday tool. Active use is actually quite low.
Why is that?
Because if you present a consumer with 20 screens of data material composition, supply chain maps, water usage, carbon reports, it just creates decision fatigue. You can actually stop them from buying anything at all.
So demanding total transparency doesn't automatically lead to better decisions if the information isn't filtered or immediately actionable.
Exactly. The DPP seems to work best indirectly, as a kind of background assurance. Just knowing that the passport exists and that the brand is legally required to be transparent, that strengthens the overall brand trust.
Even if you never actually scan the code.
Even if you never scan it. Which means brands can't just dump raw data. They have to tailor the communication based on who the consumer is. The research points to about 3 key profiles.
Okay, Kurai.
First, you have the rationalist planner. This person needs practical instructions, repair logs, a clear justification for why something is high quality and costs more.
They want the fact.
They want the facts. Second, you have the aspirational idealist. They need compelling brand stories, curated ethical selections, that value-based emotional connection.
And the third.
The convenience seeker. This person needs seamless choices, immediate recommendations like, is this the right size for me? And really clear, simple visuals. Traffic light icons, things with minimal friction.
So the data is the foundation, but the interface has to be totally customized.
It has to be.
This deep dive has definitely shown the 2 sides of the digital product passport. You've got the regulatory stick forcing this global transparency under threat of market exclusion.
But you also have this commercial carrot, which gives brands a chance to create new value through verifiable longevity, real trust, and new aftercare services.
I think the biggest takeaway here is financial and logistical. This whole shift requires companies to completely rethink their product data infrastructure, probably centered around a good PM system.
You have to.
Yeah.
You can't stay agile or compliant or competitive if your product data is scattered all over the place. It's a necessary investment to future-proof your business.
And it fundamentally changes the identity of the product itself. I mean, we're seeing the traditional barcode being replaced by new data carriers like these QR codes. It guarantees that the product's full, transparent life history travels with it forever.
From raw material to consumer and all the way back to scrap.
So here is the final provocative thought for you to take away. If the complete, verified history of a product is guaranteed to persist throughout its entire life and beyond, a full digital biography of its materials, its usage, its repairs, what unforeseen value will society eventually assign to that transparent history? And how will this digital record eventually redefine the very concept of ownership in a truly circular economy? We encourage you to think about what data points you would prioritize if you were designing your own passport.
That's it for today's episode. We hope you enjoyed exploring how digital workflows are transforming the construction industry. Don't forget to subscribe and join us next time for more insights into building smarter. Looking for more knowledge and inspiration? Head over to our website. You'll find everything you need to keep building smarter.